Okay, we are live. Alright. So we got too much. Okay. Whenever you're set.
Hit it.
Alright. Perfect. I'm gonna be here and then you're gonna, oh wow, this looks great. Wow. So you could do your part and then I'll do my part, but this is gonna be awesome. Alright.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be looking at that.
Yeah, this is gonna be the main camera.
Yeah, it's the main camera.
How's it going, everybody on Facebook Live? This is gonna be for the podcast, The Big Revelation, and I have my super and first special guest, and there's a reason why I picked them out of anybody else. This is David here, and he's a 2 times cancer survivor. You had 98
chemotherapies.
98. Yeah, I don't even think I can count that high, to be honest. That's pretty high, you guys. So, and he does, right now, he's going to become a very well-known public speaker. He's in his, you're writing a book too.
Well, right now I signed a contract with a literary agent. Now we're getting ready to shop it around.
Yeah.
So hopefully by the end of the year, the book will be finished. That's the goal, by 2017. And the documentary will be actually done at the same time. We're actually working on the documentary as we speak. It's called Cancer Was a Blessing. How do you find hope when how do you have faith when there is no hope? And that's kind of the thing about my story is continue to find hope. I had faith the whole time, but continue to find hope when everything is going against you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think especially with 2016 being the weirdest and most awkward but also exciting year, and now people want something different. In 2017, I think it's going to bring a lot of light, and fortunately David's going to be one of those guys with us that's going to help with this world. So I want to begin and get into his story, because his story has a really big message, because it's not every day you find somebody that has overcame something super powerful. And one of the reasons is I relate with David because with my life struggles. So David, can you tell us, what do you think was probably one of the biggest struggles you had leading up to this moment?
I think, in life we go through that period of time when we're doing everything well, everything is working for you. You got the right job, right girl, right this, right that. Everything is going really good, and you kind of feel like you're invincible, and you feel like there's that source of just, I knew God, I believed in Christ, and I was very I was a believer. So I just felt like, my life was going the right way. I had my dreams, everything I wanted to do, I kept doing, and nothing really fazed me. As a consultant in the fitness industry, my job was to take over gyms that were not doing well, that were literally in the red. And my job was to take over, hire new people, get a brand new start. It's almost like a brand new project every single time. And it's just a brand new atmosphere that you bring in, and my energy and my work ethic was the main reason I think people kind of were drawn to me, and I kept, turning gyms around. So that was a big deal, and then at 29 I felt a lump, and it took me about 7-8 months to finally get to the hospital. I knew I had cancer. There was no doubt I had it. Like, it was like God giving me, all these little just little visions and things that I felt like I had it, but I didn't want to go to the doctor. And I share that with people all the time, because it took me 7-8 months, and when I finally went, it was exactly what it was. It was cancer. I was diagnosed on Friday, August 13th. Friday 13th. Friday, August 13th of 2004. I was diagnosed the first time. And literally on August 16th, on that Monday, I had my surgery. It was taken out. I went, the first surgery I ever had, major surgery, and at the end of the day I had to start to get better. I had to heal. It took some time, so that kind of stopped my life for a little bit.
Now, did you have a family history with cancer, or was it something that you...
Yeah, I mean, my grandmother and my father and things like that, but this type of cancer was unique. That's a case. Okay. It became a case study because usually at 29 years old, normally you don't have an immature teratoma. Usually happens when you're very young, as a baby. It's almost like a twin. It has particles of hair, particles of bone, teeth, and all kinds of weird stuff. It's almost like it didn't grow or something. But it is a tumor, and what makes it terminal is that it grows different types of cancers at the same time, and they're all terminal. So what happens is that you basically, let's say you try to fight one cancer, the other ones come and kill you. Exactly. So the doctors have no cure. There's still no cure for what it was. Just because I was healed, it just makes one case.
Exactly.
So I became a case study, just the opposite, the one that actually survived. The other ones have been encapsulated. They have never been like metastasized like mine did, you know. But mine came back in 2006. Yeah, 2 years later.
Wow, that's unbelievable. It just keeps coming back like that. And I was reading in a book and by a professional, he said that diseases, 99% of diseases are actually man-made, which is amazing because as we later get to hear your story of how you actually cured it, you're going to realize that it has a lot to do with, like you mentioned, the faith and the mindset. And it's not just modern medicine, because nowadays so many people are doped up on drugs, and believe it or not, healthcare is the #1 expenses people pay towards the lifetime. And unfortunately, it's a lot of the middle class and the lower class that actually have to pay those medical expenses that they can't afford. That's why they have to rely a lot on government and welfare. One of those things.
Absolutely. You know, and the percentages are high. About 70-80% of the population is on drugs, some kind of drug. I'm not talking about recreation. We're talking about you know, things like antidepressants or Xanax or any type of drug, something pharmaceutical to help you with your digestion or this or that or whatever. And you know, and I've always said this, you know, your disease usually starts in the digestive system. You know, in my case, there's not a lot of, I was a very healthy person at 29 years old, so mine was just kind of a rarity that it just grew. But at the end of the day, my doctor said that it had been there all along. So when it grew, 2 years later when it came back, you know, I always say, you know, God had to prepare me to battle that cancer. I probably wouldn't have survived the first time if I would have had chemo or any type of more surgeries. I probably wouldn't have survived. I think my faith grew. I know that my faith grew during those 2 years, from 2004 to 2006 is when my relationship with God got really close to the point that I said, okay, if this was what I was chosen for, then this was my purpose. Exactly. Then I had to live. I wasn't going to die, and I had to be bold. I had to be very blunt about it to my doctors, everybody. While people were looking at me like I was crazy, I was like, okay, well, I have nothing to lose, because at the end of the day, the opposite of what I was thinking about was death already. Everybody already thought I was dying. Mm-hmm. So I had to be bold enough to say, you know what, I'm going to go all out, and I'm going to have my faith that God's going to heal me, and He chose me to tell this story. And it's been 10 years later. Wow. I'm here, and I kept my promise to tell the story, to share it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that story that a pastor told me. He was also, I believe, in the Marine Corps. He was an atheist, and when he was, I believe he was in Iraq, there was a grenade that went off, and he said, God, I don't know if you exist or not, but if you let me survive this day, I will preach your word, and I will spread your love and truth, right? And the grenade ended up being a dud, and from there he was a changed man. So as you can tell, Napoleon Hill, with the Think and Grow Rich franchise, he wrote in there, having faith is one of the key factors to success, and that in today's world we have so much going on that we tend to forget the stuff that's really important, like faith and having something to believe in, to hold on to. Sure. Because people nowadays are looking for false hope, and that doesn't work, right?
Correct. You know, I talk about finding hope, but you know, finding hope usually is in a positive way, not in a negative way. Finding hope in doing something good. And people forget, it's not just about what you do for yourself, it's what you do for others and what you do for the world. I believe as you know, Anthony Robbins, who always says, he talks about that, it's you have certain needs and certain things in life that you're supposed to do, but it's usually, you know, yes, part of it is something that's good for you and good for others, but also something that can change the world. And when people say, why can't this person change it? It's like, I always say to people when they're saying, I'm praying for a miracle, I said, you are the miracle. Exactly. God created you, so you need to change. And there's certain things about your life that you can actually go ahead and start changing. And then while you change, other people around you will change. And then that will become the domino effect that you probably were looking for.
Yeah, and it's you got to show that example. People don't like being told what to do, right? Because it's part of human nature. And this saying, I love it. One of my coach taught me is that instead of telling people what to do, show them, right? Because people who take action and actually do it are the ones that are the loudest, even though they're the quietest. So it really exemplifies and expresses what David's going through here. So David, I have to ask, man, because I went through a moment in my life where I thought I was going to get killed, right? And when that news came up to you, what was the first thing that came on your mind when you like, oh man, I have to get this done? Or
when I first got diagnosed,
yes,
I blacked out.
Oh, wow.
It's been written, it's been published. I blacked out. I was at Dr. Dudok's office in Boca Raton, Florida, and he was the urologist that took that beginning case, that start, 2004, and when he diagnosed me, I blacked out. I remember being in a chair. They were drawing blood, the nurses, and they woke me up. The nurses had to wake me up.
Oh, wow.
Even though I knew something inside of me already said I had cancer, it was just a confirmation when you hear those words. So I can relate, when people hear the word cancer, I relate to that because I remember what that was like. And it wasn't that I didn't believe in God, it's just the fact that I wasn't invincible anymore. It was the truth that finally came with that word cancer. And I never thought it would happen to me. I'm a healthy guy, a trainer, a positive guy. I do all these great things. I help people out. All the great things you do. But it wasn't about that. It was the fact that I learned through the 2 years that it was all those tools and all those instruments and all those gifts and talents that God had given me that He wanted to use.
Exactly.
And the only way to use it was to go through this journey. And through the worst journey that I would never even, my worst enemy, I wouldn't wish it upon them.
Exactly.
But it's something that I know there was a huge purpose that I had to lose the weight I had to have the chemotherapy that I had to. The surgery took almost in between 12 to 14 hours. All those things had to happen. I had to go through the worst to be able to be a blessing to others. Because if not, people wouldn't, if you don't see that picture, you don't really believe me, just because the doctors say so, but I had to go through all that stuff for people to believe.
Yeah, and it's, their word is never final. We think because they're in a dress and they're the authority figure, everything they say is true. But we don't realize we're here because of one person, basically, and he's an omnipresence. It could even be a she, for all I know, right? It's probably everything in one, because God doesn't care about time, age, or any of that. He's just transcendent. And like you were reminding me, it was one of the stories that I had with, it was my mentor. He's saying that, it doesn't matter if you want to be used or not, because the universe is going to use you because it doesn't judge. So the opportunity is going to come. Correct. And so if you don't open up, the universe is going to move on to you. And you opened up, and the universe and God said, look, I'm going to use David because he's going to be the messenger. Because every day I wake up, I ask God and the universe to use me as much as possible, because what's the point of life just walking around and going to get a job at 9 to 5 and not even enjoying it like most people nowadays, right? And
I really believe in prayer, and I pray every day for God to place people in my life. And as soon as a name pops up, I will reach out to that person. I will text that person. I will email that person, Instagram, whatever. And and that's because I wake up every morning, one, being grateful for my life, two, being chosen to tell the story, and then I pray for God to place people in my path. And those are the people that I reach out to. Those are the people that I pray for. Those are people I will text, probably even bug at times, because I feel like God's using me in their life, and they might not get it at that moment, but eventually I'll get a text from somebody, I'll get an email or something from somebody saying, you were right, or you text me this at the exact right time, or how did you know, or this thing. I said, I didn't know, I just prayed, I thought of you, so I immediately put 1 and 2 together equals 3. I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and reach out to that person. And I always pray the same thing. I want to be a blessing in those people's lives that I cross paths with. No matter who they are, I want to be a blessing. And I know that when you pray, things, come out of it. And the blessings usually, can be anything. It could be the smallest thing,
Exactly.
but it could be a breakthrough. And when those breakthroughs come out in my clients or my friends, I'm like, I get to witness that. I get to see what I already thought about, or what we've been praying about, or what we've been thinking about, and finally it came true. So that's the blessing that I get out of it. I get to witness these miracles happen every day.
Exactly, and I think everybody's a miracle, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. We were born, we were here.
Especially when you go through a struggle in life, especially twice, you really have that deep appreciation. And I don't think coincidences.
I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
Correct.
Everything happens because there's some kind of divine purpose, even something very small. And it's usually the small increments that really happen. Imagine the pivot point, right? If you shoot a bullet to the moon and it's only a millimeter off, you'll probably land on Pluto, right? And it's those small trajectories that really make the big difference in people's lives. And, nowadays we live in a world where people have big goals, but they also want to take big leaps at the same time, but they don't understand that overnight success doesn't happen in 25 seconds.
Correct.
And like for you, battling your cancer and getting over it.
It took time.
Yeah, it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to wake up and this is it.
Correct. I wish that was it. I prayed about that. It didn't happen to me. And I knew that, through the process, and this is why the book is such an important project for me, and the documentary, is not just about the beginning and the end. Connor, is about the middle.
Exactly.
And I wrote a speech and a sermon, whatever you want to call it, about that middle, about the in between, about all the little miracles that happen in between that. And when I'm working on this projects, there were so many people that were around me during that time. Some were friends, and some were acquaintances, some were employees. But it was interesting how there were a lot of things that happened in that in between that haven't been told yet. People know the story of exactly what happened. This is what happened. David got diagnosed. He got re-diagnosed. Went through 98 chemotherapies. He worked out through chemo, and he went through the surgery. He survived the surgery, and then a few months later, I was back hosting shows, and then I was cleared of cancer. Okay, that's the story. But there's so many other impactful miracles that happen in that time frame.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not just to me, but to other people. Around me. Because of what I was going through, there were people going to the gym, finding out when was David going to work out, because they wanted to see me. But here's the thing in my head is, I didn't want to be seen. So I went from having long hair and being 180 pounds ripped to 124 pounds. And then I started going to the gym at 128 pounds. And I'm 6 feet tall. So you can imagine it's like this toothpick.
Guys, that's my weight. I'm 124 pounds and I'm 5'6". So as you can tell, we were basically switching bodies at that time.
Add 6 more inches. Every inch makes a difference, I promise you.
It's about 10 pounds.
So what was interesting about it was that I didn't want to be seen. I wore the smallest stuff I could wear, and I put my little Under Armour cap on or a hat on or whatever fit me, and so people couldn't see me. I had no hair, no eyelashes, nothing. And yet, people wanted to know when David was at the gym. They were asking, when is David going to be in the gym? So they could come to the gym when I was there. And to me, it didn't make no sense. I said, I don't want to see anybody.
You were of light.
I wanted to come when no one was there. And what was interesting, it just came to me, and it was something that happened in between there. There was a young lady that came in, and she was a mother, and I remember this, just thinking about me going to the gym. She walked in and she asked for me. I couldn't tell you her name right now. I always say God places angels in your life for a reason, right? And there was a lady that came in, And she said, can I see the manager, David Gandell? And I said, well, yeah, but he's kind of not feeling well. No, I know he has cancer, but I wanted to know if he was here. And I came. I came to her, and I was working out in the middle of it, and I walked up to her, and she just wanted to thank me. And I said, what did I do? I said, well, you saved my daughter's life. And I said, what did I do to your daughter? Well, my daughter is a teenager, and she came to this gym, and you signed her up, and you gave her advice, and you had told her that you had survived cancer once already, and you had told that we all had a purpose, that we all had a reason for our existence or a meaning, and she needed to lose weight, but she also needed to just be guided. And I don't remember the girl, and I don't remember her, but I remember, her name or anything like that. But I remember that she came to thank me. And that day I was going through, just the typical depression of what you go through when you're basically fighting for your life. And I needed to hear a word, I needed to hear just something, to lift my spirits.
Exactly.
And this lady walked out of nowhere, walked into the gym, thanks me for saving her daughter's life. And she said that she had seen a picture of me with long hair, and she said, this guy looks like Jesus. And then she said, now that you're bald, you look like an angel. And it was, tears were coming down my face, and I remember just saying thank you. I was just being thankful to God, because it just confirmed that I was doing the right thing. One, that I was working out. Two, that I was fighting to live. And three, that I was changing people's lives even when I didn't even know it. So that was a confirmation. I just got it because we're talking about the gym, me going to the gym. And I have letters, stored of people that wrote me letters that I still haven't even read to this day. Because every time I open them, I start getting emotional. I start getting overwhelmed, because I remember the exact time when they gave me those letters. I have kids that were in elementary school write me letters, and I have them in construction paper. I never met these kids, but their teachers were telling the kids to pray for me. And I have those letters in a box, and I still haven't gone through all of them. I always keep telling myself, one of these days I'm going to get in front of a camera, and I'm going to start little by little opening those letters.
Maybe we could do another interview about that. I think that would be awesome.
I don't know if I'll finish it, I promise you guys, but I pray that one day I'm strong enough to even read them, because those kids, that was 10 years ago.
Wow. So
those kids right now are teenagers, maybe even over 18 years old. I don't even know. I forgot the ages. I think they were 5, 6, or 7. That was 10 years ago. And those kids, they never met me, but they listened to their teacher. And whatever the teacher said, they took it to this. That's why I would say kids have a spirit like no one else does, because they have faith, they believe, they have dreams, they don't care, they don't, they have no fear. My goddaughter breaks her arm, she takes her cast off, and when they take their cast off, she starts jumping up and down again. It's like she doesn't have any fear.
They're not in their head.
She has no fear. She's like, whatever, because fear doesn't come until we become adults and everybody tells us that something's impossible.
Exactly.
But to a kid, nothing is impossible.
They don't even know what that means.
They don't. And, we grow up in this world, and, I always say, I thank God for my parents. I had 2 miracle parents that have been in my life that taught me about faith. But we all have mentors that God places in our life. Sometimes it's not our parents. Sometimes it's a coach or a teacher or somebody, or one of the speakers that we listen to, or whoever it is. But
it could even be books.
It could be reading, exactly. It could be an author or somebody that inspires you. But the fear is something that we need to. Fear has 2 reasons to me. One, it can literally paralyze you, Connor.
Yes.
Literally, it can paralyze you. The other, it can push you. See, to me, when the fear comes in, it pushes me towards that. That I know that I'm supposed to jump out of that plane. I'm supposed to jump out and do something amazing. Shock people. See, I didn't have to prove anybody wrong. God took care of that for me. So, if you're afraid of something, go for it. If you're nervous, go for it. You know, take that leap of faith. Just go for it. Just, you have nothing else to lose. You know, the only thing I have to lose, I could have died. I could die tomorrow. But I'm still here. So as long as I'm here, go for it. Do it.
Yeah, and it's that part that, you know, we fear death is, I believe it's like the second now.
Speaking is number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, people fear public speaking more than anything.
And it's funny because really public speaking comes down to the fear of rejection, the fear of being judged, right? Because when you're on stage, because we're both professional speakers,
Yeah.
and if you really look at it, it's, imagine there was actually nobody there, right? There wouldn't really be a fear. It would just, you'd be talking. And it brings me up to a point, and I want to get to it because of the fact that, you know, you have so much good stories and we can be here all day.
No, trust me.
Yeah.
You can go to YouTube. That's right. They're there.
They're all there, you guys. Yeah, he's been interviewed by Steve Harvey. He's been on a lot of shows. So this is just like the cream of the crop. There's so much more. So I have to ask, we always want to have some kind of dream that really propels us to go further. And it's unfortunate that in school, you know, they don't teach us how to do dreams, but they teach us how to remember a date from 1972 that happened that nobody cares about, right? So what was one of that dream that you held on to maybe during the time you survived cancer that kept you going?
The dream that I had was the same dream I had when I was a teenager.
Oh, wow.
I dreamt when I was a kid. I remember in Puerto Rico, my parents had a corner house, and inside the garage was this long garage, and it was, you know, it was enclosed. So I could play, I had like a little basketball hoop there, and I could play basketball inside when there was no cars there. It was a high ceiling. I was a kid anyway, it didn't have to be 20 feet tall, 10 feet tall. But what I remember, you know, playing basketball in you know, Marquesina, what we call the driveway. And I remember just, you know, hitting these shots and trying to be like you know, the famous basketball player. Anyway, and I remember something came inside and said, "You're going to inspire millions." And I said that day, I want to inspire millions. You know, of course, I'm playing basketball at the time, so I'm thinking it's going to be through basketball that I'm going to inspire millions. I did play high school ball, guys, but I didn't make it, you know, anything after that. And then, you know, that dream stayed with me. I'm going to inspire millions. Then I started modeling when I was in high school. And I thought maybe modeling. And I was in theater, maybe acting. Or, you know, and then I got into the gym business and I started training competitors and fitness competitors. At 19 years old, I started training competitors. And I said, okay, you know, maybe that. Then I became a manager of a gym. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to inspire millions? Well, I was a manager and I started doing seminars. And I was doing health and wellness seminars, using my certification and using my gym and using my, you know, you know, that whole rapport that I had. I said, well, I can go to schools, I can go to this, I can do that, and talk about health and wellness, how to help people with diabetes and heart attack and all these other things. So I said, I'm going to inspire millions. And it wasn't until I got cancer that that dream came back. And after I went through cancer the first time, something inside of me said, why haven't you been speaking? Why haven't you been doing seminars? Why did you stop going to schools? Why did you stop going to businesses and speaking and giving? Because even though I was talking about health and wellness, I was also being inspirational and motivational, getting people off, you know, on their feet and do something with your life. And I started doing auctions and I started doing speaking again for those 2 years while I was researching about my cancer. And so while those 2 years are going by, God is speaking to me and telling me, this is your dream. At this moment, now I could use you, and now your dream will come to pass. And I've been on Steve Harvey, I've been on all these other shows, so I can't count the people that have heard my testimony. I hope I got to 1 million already, but if not, I hope to do it at some point. But I will tell you this, even my dream of being an actor came back into my life just a few years ago. I was asked to be in a play called You're Never Alone, and I got to travel to Atlanta. I was in Fort Lauderdale. We sold out the Faith Center in Fort Lauderdale. And right before I come out to do the interview on stage, God put in my head and said, I never gave up on your dream, so you can't either. I gave up on acting years ago. After cancer, I said, I'm never going to do that. and then God put in my, you have a talent, I will use you in that platform as well. And what was interesting about it is that it wasn't the main role, but it got enough people to think about it, to come to me or to ask me or to follow me or to do whatever, and then I had the opportunity to share my testimony with them. So that was another platform that God used. So when you talk about dreams, I would say the only one that will make your dream not come true is you. You are the only one that can allow to give up on something, because if God put it in you, it's for a reason. There's a purpose for that dream. When it happens, who knows? But you are the only one that can give up on it. And I know so many people, Connor, and you do too. You come across a lot of people as well when you do a lot of charity work and philanthropy. There's a lot of people that we meet that they allow other people to stop them from their dream.
Yeah,
and they don't even see it.
It's sad because we feel like we need people's approval to live, but that's not what dictates your life. Because it really comes down to being responsible, right? I learned from one of my mentors. He did a study for a long time. He said that everybody that's been successful took responsibility for themselves. Even if something happened to them and it wasn't really their fault, they acted as though it was, because cancer, that wasn't really your fault.
No, it's not about fault. And people
Yeah.
always say, oh, is it God? You know, what did you do wrong in your life? Or what's your, you know, I've been to some religious people and say, well, your sin must have been really big. It has nothing to do with that.
It doesn't.
I know little kids in the hospital that never did a bad thing, and they're dying of cancer right now. It's not about that. But what I do see is the outcome. I see how their lives changes hundreds and thousands of people's lives. I see how my life has changed hundreds of thousands of people's lives. Even someone like Lance Armstrong that did a lot of bad things, Live Strong wouldn't be what it is without him. So yeah, what even the bad people God can use for something good. But look at that organization. Live Strong has helped in millions and millions of lives that are hopeful because of this one man that did what he did.
Yeah, and it's the message that really matters, because people are looking at it from the negative side of you.
Correct.
Right? You know, we're so used to everything negative. And this is near Fort Lauderdale, and we just had an incident today that just happened up the street. But the main thing is that, okay, what are you going to do about it now, right? How? Because you couldn't let that cancer keep affecting you. Because the thing is, you know, a lot of people are so depressed, they're starting at young as 10 years old.
Yeah.
And when you give up on yourself, your brain cells, they actually did a study, guys. Your body actually shuts down, and your cells and your white blood cells actually start decreasing. That's how you get more bacteria and more parasites in you. And that's when you actually start to decay from the inside. Because remember, life only has really two things to it. You're either dying or you're either growing, right?
I was just gonna say that if you're not growing or learning, you're dying. And I will give you one example that has nothing to do with me. My father, he's in his 80s. I just leave it at that. My mom's a psychologist. She's a doctor. She went to Ohio State University. Big Buckeye fan. I'm sorry about this weekend. But I will say this. My father, everything my mom learns, my father goes through. My father learns. He'll read the book. He'll read the pamphlet. He'll read all that stuff. It's a doctorate. I said to my dad, you could have gotten your doctorate by now. Because everything my mom learns, he learns. He'll go through the books. He'll go through the material. And he'll learn it. And what he's doing, he's keeping his mind going. He's keeping his mind working. He does numbers. He does all the bookkeeping and all that stuff in my house and my mom's and the household, and it keeps him going. He still drives, he still goes to the bank, he still does that, but he continues to want to read and learn and continues to be active. And because that, and active doesn't mean body-wise, active is up here.
That's actually even more important.
If you don't use your mind, you don't use your, whatever, then you're not, if you're not thinking about something else, then that's it. And then a lot of people live in other people's reality, unfortunately. You know?
Celebrities, it's so sad that we know celebrities' names, birthdays, who they marry, what they ate 20 minutes ago, but we don't even have a clue what we want to do, right? And it's so, in a way,
that's a good one.
It's really sad though, if you think about it.
Yeah.
People care about other people's life more than they do themselves. And it's just a mess right now, but I think everything has a good purpose and a good reason to it. So you don't have to answer this question because I know you already lived through it once. But I love asking people this question because it really opens up a bigger message and a bigger window. If you had 6 more months to live,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, there's no cure, because some people would say, well, I would find a cure for it. That's you can't. That's out of the question, right? So if you had 6 more months to live,
Yes.
what is it that you must accomplish?
I would do exactly what I'm doing. I would reach out to people every day. I would pray for people every day. I would make sure the book is done, the documentary is done. I would continue to do speaking. I would probably do more interviews. I would probably book more events and more shows. I would do exactly what I'm doing because it's one thing that I've shared this with people. You're talking 6 months. I've done this message over and over about if you have 1 week to live. Remember, they gave me 3 days.
Yeah.
So the difference is when you're sick, there's not a lot you can do, unfortunately. Because when you're sick, so it takes a lot of willpower. It took a lot of willpower for me to go to the gym and work out. It did, absolutely. And I did it because I believed that this would help through my healing. And it did, because it gave me hope. But I would say this, I always look at life in that way. If you have 1 week to live, what would you do? Tell your parents you love them, tell your friends you love them, tell whoever it is that you love.
Up so many doors.
Correct. And unfortunately, unless you're touched by it yourself, that you go through an experience where you don't know if you're going to live, 80 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
People don't know, they can't understand that concept. Tomorrow's always here. That's not true. Tomorrow's never promised. No one's ever promised tomorrow. Look what happened today. 5 people were killed on something surreal, something that doesn't even make sense to anybody.
Yeah.
They're not going home tonight.
Yeah, one of my Marine buddies just committed suicide. He's like 23 years old. And that was yesterday.
So, I'm sorry about that. So, I every day I look at people that want to live, and then I see other people that take life for granted, and they keep asking me, this and that. I said, I'm telling you what to do. When you don't want to do it, that's up to you.
Exactly.
If one thing about me is I always say, you talk about certain things, I talk about obedience. I'm always obedient. If somebody reaches out to me, I'm obedient. If God puts somebody in my life, I'm obedient. I will text that person at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't even know why I'm texting them, or I'm reaching out to them, or I'm calling them, or whatever it is. But I'm obedient because I know that there's something bigger that has nothing to do with me. But that God is using me as just an instrument or a vessel. But I would tell everybody, it's like, you're talking about 6 months, I'm talking about 1 week. And I promise you that if you live, and I say this to people, you can be crazy if you want to, but if you just literally do in 1 week, thinking that it's not gonna, you would accomplish so much more in life if you just go through those things and you keep helping more and more and more people. You don't need to know the outcome yet. Just the outcome will come. Just keep doing it. Just keep helping people. Connor tells me about philanthropy. He does all these charity work, and he does all these speaking and all this stuff. And I said it fills him with joy because he served in the armed forces. He's done all these other things. He's seen death. He's seen what that is like. But he's just so blessed to be alive and the person he's become. That to me, that's why it was easy for me to say, hey, yeah, let's do this interview. I'm excited about it because it is a revelation. You know what the revelation is? Is that you're alive.
It is.
That's a revelation. You woke up this morning. That's a revelation. And if you don't think that that's a miracle and that's a revelation, there's people that didn't wake up.
Yeah.
And they weren't 80, 90 years old. They were in their 20s. So there were, things happen in life that we can't really understand sometimes, but that's a big revelation, to be honest with you.
I was going to ask you that question, but you already were so far ahead.
We're here.
Exactly. It's just meeting eye to eye. Yeah, it's amazing that, and I don't believe that you have to have some kind of a crisis or almost a death sentence in your life to really wake up, because it really doesn't come down to that. And a lot of us believe that it has to happen that way. I mean, it really does help, but at the same time, it doesn't have to happen that way. Because if you really look at it from a different point of view, because some people have to go into debt in order to actually be successful, right? But you hear of other people who never had to go into debt.
Yeah,
they were very, very successful.
50-50, yeah. But I would say that you're hitting a point, and you know, and that's the biggest thing. I would say to this is you have to be open to it. That means that you have to think bigger, and that's why I always say to people, dream those impossible dreams. A dream that you know, that relationship that you don't think that you're ever gonna have, dream it. You know, believe in it, put faith behind it, and then work on yourself, you know, to get there. And this could be a relationship with your family member. This could be a relationship with a girl, guy, or whatever, you know. It could be, you know, but just when someone really touches your heart, touches your spirit, you know, you don't give up on those people. You don't have to be in their life, but you can pray for them. But I would say you have to be open, you know. You have to be open for change to happen. You have to be open. You have to believe in it. So before it could be a crisis for somebody else that helps somebody, you know. And then in my case, that's what I see a lot. I see a lot of people that they didn't go through a crisis, but they were touched by my testimony, or they were touched by a testimony of somebody I shared that had nothing to do with cancer, just something else, you know. And then all of a sudden that popped out and say, wow, you know, I can do more with my life, you know. And there's people say, I don't have enough time. I only have 24 hours. Trust me, if I went through your day, I do this with my clients, Connor, and you probably could too. You go through your day, I promise you I'll find the time.
There's always time.
I will find the time for you. The problem is that you're not seeing it. You're blind to it. And, you know, and the same thing goes with people that help other people organize their life, you know. And they'll be like, you know why your life is cluttered? It's because this, and this. They're able to see things that you're not able to see. That's okay, because you have another talent. See, don't ever forget that. Not everybody's going to have a talent for this, and this, but you have other talents. I always say to me, I just want to run. Yeah, I want to run. God, I just want to run. I want to do everything. I want to run. But then sometimes they'll stop me and says, you know, hold on. I need you to go through this. And it's those tedious things that I hate doing, but I know I have to do.
Yeah, Jim Rose says, you know, people do what's easy, but they also do what's also hard. And you have to do both in order to get what you want in life, really.
You learn from it. I mean, at the end of the day, you learn from it. You know, it wasn't easy for me to work out, and I was in a lot of pain, but I learned more and I say this not just to you, but everybody. I learned more about personal training, more than I ever learned in a book or certifications or anything, in those 4.5 months that I worked out, or a little bit longer than that. Going through chemotherapy, having my body be decomposed to the limit, nothing. I had no strength, no muscle, nothing. I learned about conditioning my body in such a way to condition my muscles to become stronger. Things that I would have never learned if I was just a strong person, you know, or an athlete. I learned it because I was to the point that I had nothing, and I had to literally start the building blocks. Start with the foundation and learn. So I had to learn literally so much in that moment, and now it's like, it's easy for me. You know, when I have a client that says, I want to do a show, I want to compete, I can do that like that. Why? Because I've already seen that, I've already felt that, I know what I'm supposed to feel. And if I can teach that, and I will continue to teach that, it's a blessing, you know?
Definitely agree, yeah.
So time, yes, you have it. Revelation is your life. Your life is a big revelation. Enjoy it. Seriously.
Exactly. It comes down to that moment. Because time is the most precious resource we have.
We can't buy it.
And what's funny is I was reading online, and they actually did a study that confirmed that time actually doesn't exist. It's something that we made up and fabricated, because God doesn't.
It's a breath. God says that our life is a breath. It's like a.
Yeah, because
go like this.
1,000 days to him could be 10 minutes, right?
You go like this. That's your life. That's it. It's over. Your life is over. We're here living years, but it's nothing. And I don't know. I'm just so. I feel really truly grateful for my life, for for the time I've had in this earth. I've had 10 years of bonus life. That's the way I look at my life. I look at my life. In 2007, I was cleared of cancer. It's 2017. I've had 10 years of a bonus life. I've given this extra time, and I hope and I pray that I've done as much as I could, because I'm very hard on myself. I probably thought I could have done more. But I have to believe that God has a perfect timing for certain things. So yeah, I've had 10 extra years of bonus life.
Yeah, there is such thing as timing, right? That's different.
Timing is different than
That's a
time.
wholly different story.
Absolutely.
Right? So, about your book that you are going to come out with, it seems very interesting. You're having a lot of support and help with this. Can you explain to us a little bit more about it? Because I'm sure the listeners are definitely going to want a glimpse.
I have been working on it for 10 years, so it hasn't been easy. It's still not finished. It still needs a lot of work, but I finally, through a specific person, I believe an angel in my life that came by, helped me, and I found a literary agent, and I signed with her literally yesterday. And now the proposal is almost finished, and then from there we go shop to the publishing companies. People ask me, why didn't I self-publish? The main reason I didn't self-publish is because I need the book to be in front of millions of people, and not in front of 5,000 or 10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000. If I self-publish, yes, it's easier and it's my money or whatever. I don't care about that. My job is my dream, to inspire millions. If I go with a publishing company, yes, it's not, again, it has never been about the money with me. But the goal is that their marketing, correct, their marketing, their publicity, all that stuff comes with it. And I'll be able to have that book in front of millions of people. And that's the ultimate goal for me. Same thing with the documentary. I never told you this, but I've been accepted to multiple fitness festivals already.
Oh, wow.
But I don't have the documentary. But just because I mentioned that I was working on a documentary years ago, people already assumed the documentary was finished, and it hasn't. I did start my production company last year called Fed to Live Entertainment. So Fed to Live Entertainment is faith-based. We're going to do faith-based projects. My partner is Sunny Belmello. She's in Orlando, Florida. She owns Higher Dreams Production. She's an amazing human being, but a great partner for this. And the goal with that is a documentary, a film, full feature film as well, and TV shows that are going to include inspirational stories and testimonials, of course.
Oh, wow.
That's the goal. That's the goal. So it's, one thing after the other, of course. And I feel like everything's going to be a domino effect.
It is.
So I feel like one will come and then everything will roll through after that. But it's taken 10 years. So when people say, oh, no, it hasn't even happened yet, I'm saying 10 years because I'm praying that it happens this year. But it's been 10 full years of sharing my story, the testimony, and being obedient, and trying to be a blessing to others. So, it's a long time. It's not overnight.
It's that patience that really helps, and that perseverance. Because from what I understand, a lot of stories, especially from successful people, is they always say it takes around that 10-year mark to really become where they're at. If you look at a lot of companies, and most of them are doing the hustling, the grinding, you don't hear about them, and then they emerge out of nowhere.
Correct.
Like all these
it wasn't
startups.
out of nowhere. It was.
They were doing their thing, and then they came. But it's just amazing that a lot of us don't realize or understand that. I know 10 years is going to be a long time, but it's worth every single moment, every single minute, right? Because what else are you going to be doing if you're not working on your dreams?
But you enjoy, and the biggest thing is to enjoy the moment.
Exactly.
I have to, there's certain moments in my life that I enjoy the most, and being on stage is one of them. Being able to do a runway show after so many years, it's something that I've always enjoyed, and I become a different person. It's like I am a character on that stage, and it's something I truly enjoy. And every single time I do that, or every single time I host a fitness show, or a fashion show, or any of those things, I literally do it like it's my last. And people look at me like, oh my God, how do you keep the energy, or do this or that? Or it's like, because I do it like it's my last. I always do it like it's the last time that I'll ever do anything like this, because I've had my life stopped multiple times. And I go, you know what, I may never have this opportunity, so you know what, I'm going to do it to the fullest. I'm going to give as much as I'm going to leave everything on stage, just like we did when we were athletes, and we leave everything on the court. It's the same thing now in my life. I put that into my life practice. And everything I do, when I train somebody, when I host, when I speak, when I do anything I do, I don't ever take it for granted. I live that moment, and it's like I'm taking this mental, spiritual picture, whatever you want to call it, but I'm literally enjoying. And you get to people, my friends that tell me, I can see you up there, and it's like, you're not even you. and I love that because that means I am enjoying that moment. You know,
That's
just
so
like
awesome.
just like a picture, just like taking a mental picture. You know.
It is. It's doing everything you do is 100%. Because what's the point, right?
I know, that's why I say people, you know, you're supposed to rehearse like you're on
Yeah.
all the time.
Even if it's something bad, do it so bad that you're gonna get criticized for it. But at the same time, people are gonna start
And then
noticing
hopefully
you.
you change and,
And then,
you do something better.
And then people actually start getting that hope and inspiration, knowing that it is okay to fail, right? It is. One of my mentors, Les Brown, was telling me, if you're gonna do something bad, might as well do it
all the way.
Yeah, because we're so afraid that we don't even do anything. And most of us are just, living quiet lives of desperation, like Henry Dora says.
Yeah, I would say, you know, we talked about this when we first, me and Connor met, and then we had a conversation. It was a really amazing time that we got to spend together, I got to know his story, which is amazing as well. It's a true testament of life and not giving up on your dreams or not giving up on your life, you know, because your surroundings and your atmosphere can predict a lot if you allow it to. But if you don't, and you believe that there's something about you that's different, you go for it. And that's what this man has done. And Les Brown, you know, I love the reference that he makes about breathing. And the reason I give credit to this, because there were many times that I couldn't breathe. There were many times that I had to use a machine. It's one of those things that you have to blow and you have to keep it at a certain level. Because what happens is if you don't open up your lungs, then your lungs get clogged and then you can't breathe, period. They have to open you up or do something. So I had to do these exercises. I was so weak and I had to keep doing them. And so, you know, Les Brown's words, when I listen to them about if you want something as bad as you want to breathe, see that there's certain things in life that you hear, it doesn't matter who they are. It could be a pastor, it could be a speaker, it could be a TV show, it could be a book, something. But I always believe this. There are certain things that God would just almost pinch you when you hear it or when you see it.
Oh yeah. Or,
you know, something that pops up and you, all of a sudden you're like, I got this. Wow, I understand what that means. And that's when we had this conversation. I know that's your mentor and it's somebody that you look up to. And it's somebody that, you know, I will, you know, if I ever meet him, I will say the same thing to him and say, you know what, your line to me, it resonates because I wanted to breathe so I could live. So then everything that I want to do, I put that emphasis behind it. I want to help people as bad as I want to live. I want to breathe, or I wanted to breathe, and I had to go through that exercise. So. And I mean it, you know, some of my friends like, David, leave me alone. I said, I can't leave you alone because I don't want to give up on you.
Yeah, that would be selfish.
You know, I don't want to give up on you. And, you know, maybe you don't get it now, but I promise you one day you're going to hear David's voice, you're going to hear my voice bugging you or texting you or whatever because I just believe in you. And what frustrates me the most is I believe in so many people more than they believe in themselves. And I always say to them, get out of the atmosphere that you're in. Come out of it. Get out of it. In other words, if you stay in an atmosphere of poverty or this or that or whatever, you don't believe there's anything else out there, you'll always be like that. If you're in an atmosphere of negativity and yelling and screaming and this and that, and you don't get out of it, you don't ever see anything more than that. So to me, as the first thing is sometimes experience something different. It's almost like a young child coming from a third world country.
Yeah.
And they just tell them to go to the bathroom. Just go use the bathroom.
They'll light up.
And it's like there's a toilet, there's a sink, there's running water, there's a shower. It's like there's all that to them. It's like us maybe getting
Ferrari,
or one of these what's the new car, Tesla or something?
Yeah, the Tesla.
One of these this $1 million car that does all these things and it can drive you everywhere. All of a sudden, that is what you can compare. I'm just trying to give you an analogy.
Yeah,
I hope people understand it.
It's the value, and value's in the eyes of the beholder. So a toilet to us is nothing, but to them it could be $1 million commodity.
Water, just little things.
Just like electricity. You know, electricity is considered a utility now. Back then it was considered a luxury. And it still is in most countries.
Most countries it is. And in California, water is something that, you know, sometimes during the year, they can't use.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money you got. I mean, it's something because they don't have enough in there, forest fires, all these things, you know. But that's it, you know. To me, it's like, you know, water is you know. I remember being in Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico, when air conditioning is not something you run every day. It's something you have in certain houses if you're lucky enough. And I grew up in that era where we didn't have air conditioning, where the air conditioning was in the master's bedroom, and of course if it was really, really hot, then my parents would turn it on, but it was so expensive that, you know, you just kind of, but you kind of, your surrounding, you accommodate to your surrounding. Now if I go to Puerto Rico, I start sweating. It's crazy because the humidity here is bad, but over there is even worse. So it's one of those things that you start thinking about, you know, how grateful we should be just to have air conditioning, just to have light, water,
Exactly.
all these things, just to have a life.
It's so precious, yeah. It's amazing. All right, now just as one last questions that I just have to ask you.
Okay.
Because I learned this from a very smart investor, and I was thinking, it stirs up a lot of conversations, but at the same time, it also makes people really believe in their cause, right? So what's something that most people don't agree with you, but something that you have a big conviction around?
Most people do not agree. It's a good question, because you have two sides to that. You know, I wouldn't say most people, but I would say some people do not agree with my life choices. You know, walking away from a career in the health club industry, consulting, to believe that my time is for others, and that I'm supposed to give my time to others and help others realize their dream. And that's something that I can't give up on, because it's almost like if you are, for example, if you create a toy, or you create a doll or something like that, and that doll comes to life, it's like whoever created you gets to, you know, he gave you certain gifts, certain talents, and gave you the right amount of faith to do the things that you're supposed to do with your life. So I look at it almost like that way. It's God created me with a purpose. It took 29 years of my life for him to show me that that was my purpose. And then it's going to take the rest of my life for me to fulfill my purpose. So I would say this to you: you have been given gifts, you have been given talents for a purpose. If you're not living your purpose, you're just existing. And I don't ever want to exist. I want to make sure that every day I go to sleep knowing that I made a difference in somebody's life. And that is fulfilling my purpose. I hope that answers.
No, that's awesome, because it is one of the biggest issues around today's economy. Is most people are just waking up, and that's about it, doing the same thing over and over and over. So how can we hear and learn more about you, David? Because I know you have so much going on right now.
Everything is branded under my name. It's David Octavio Gandell, and we'll make sure we tag.
Yeah, I'll have it all
everything
for you guys.
So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everything is David Octavio Gandell. I'm working on a few websites right now that will be launched later this year. But the websites are specifically for projects. But pretty much I'm accessible on Facebook, Instagram, and my press kit is just for speaking purposes. But you know, for sure that is my goal in 2017, is to travel and do more speaking. And doesn't mean just churches or anything like that. It means everywhere: churches, schools, business seminars, things like that. So that's my major goal this year, as well as finishing the book and the documentary, and I'm ready by the end of 2017.
Yeah, I can definitely see so much happening for you, man. It's going to be an amazing, amazing journey. And it's amazing that I get to be a witness, to be part of it as well.
Amen. Hey.
Right? So for you guys listening here on The Big Revelation, you know, this has been a very amazing and long, but yet very meaningful interview because it's not every day that you get to meet somebody that has went through so much and to live through it twice, right? And now he's going to use that inspiration to keep going, and that, like David, you kept mentioning, it's having that faith and that purpose to keep moving. And I'm sure every one of you out there has a purpose out there. So your time might not be now; it could even be 20 years down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
But the most important thing is that you are responsible and that you're a creator. So you don't have to wait for somebody to tell you what to do. There's children 16 years old making $1 million online, and stuff like that, and they're not going to be waiting to go to college or waiting for somebody to give them a resume, right? So you got to take it into your own hands. So is there anything you want to give us before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just one of the biggest I would say revelations. This is about a big revelation. It's just to remember that it's your dream, it's your life, it's your purpose. Don't expect anybody else to understand it. That's the biggest thing. It's not theirs. It's for you. It was for me to battle cancer twice. It's for me to go through the chemotherapy, for me to go through the surgery, for me to live my purpose, and for me to be a blessing to others. So whatever your dream is, keep it close. And not everybody's going to understand it. Not everybody's going to be able to support it. But the people that God has in store, they will continue to support it and lift you up when you need it. So that's one of the biggest revelations that I learned in my life, and is that don't expect others to believe in your own dreams or believe in your purpose and your existence for your life. Just don't let that hold you back. Don't allow their thoughts or their judgment or whatever it is to hold you back.
I could have said it better than that. It's you that you got to believe in more than anybody else. So I'm definitely going to have you back on again, and I think it's going to be probably even more of an amazing experience and interview. We'll probably be at the beach somewhere, sipping on some drinks and stuff in here and there. But you guys, this has been a wrap, and I just want to let you guys know that thank you for being on here and listening to this interview, and it's going to be a message that a lot of people are going to listen to and change. So you guys have an amazing day, all right?
God bless you guys.
All right, that was good. So we're going to take this video, and then we're going to split it up. All right, you guys on Facebook, we're going to get going, all right? Thanks for being on here. All right, so you want me to send you mine as well? All right, awesome, man. So we had 200 and...
Does that mean that record?
Yeah, I don't think you